At the end of July 2018, 4 Englishmen and 2 Irishmen descended on the island of Culatra in southern Portugal to take part in the annual Islands on the Air contest. This is the story of how they got there and what they did. The flight took 3 hours, leaving Manchester Airport at 4:20 in the afternoon. By 7:30 we were descending to land at Faro Airport in the Algarve. The coastline is a series of salt marshes and sandbars, Culatra Island being one of the isolated sandbars and being granted iota status. Shortly after 8 o'clock in the evening, we landed at Faro Airport in the Algarve, where I was met by Sharon, Mike 3 Victor Charlie Queen, and the wife of Colin, CT7ACG, whose home call is G3VCQ. From the airport we went directly to a local pub, where some of the other members of the team were enjoying an evening of quiz night. Colin and Sharon moved to this beautiful home in the hills to the north of Faro and the coast less than a decade ago. And of course Colin didn't waste any time in getting up a wonderful set of antennas, far better than he could ever have hoped for when he lived in Sheffield. The tower on the left supports a 12-element log periodic for the HF bands, while the one on the right has a 2-element 40-metre beam and a 6-metre beam. Culatra Island, from where we were to operate as cr5cw during the contest, is located about 26 miles southeast of the home of Colin, G3 Victor Charlie Queen, who lives in Portugal and operates under the call sign CT7ACG. The island's about 4 miles long, and we were to be located on the western end of it, with a good takeoff over water towards the UK and Western Europe. Access to the island is by ferry or water taxi. We chose the water taxi for the shorter half-hour journey time. No vehicles are allowed on the island, so everything had to be carried from the landing jetty up to the radio site. We were located on the very right hand side of the land shown here in the photograph. With all this gear, there's still room for people. In less than an hour we're down by the water's edge, where we were going to meet up with our water taxi. Between the car park here and the taxi is a broad area of paving, across which we had to carry all our equipment. It was here also that we met up with our sixth and final member of the team, Rob, M0KPD. He'd flown in from the UK that morning. He's a keen DXer and a good operator.
current from the Gulf of Cadiz and current from the Atlantic. So it's...
and it meets an oleout?
Yes, yes.
I know...
Down the German,
Well, we used to do a lot of
We're almost at the jetty, where in a few minutes we'll be unloading the antennas and carrying them up to the cr5cw operating site, a good 300 metres. First stop is the cafe.
Beer is not allowed.
Over the drinks we had a chance to plan out the day's activity and talk about the contest tactics. Our shack for the weekend is the lifeboat station here on Culatra. While it's pretty cluttered inside at the moment, unlike last year when apparently there was a lot of free space, we managed to squeeze our stuff in there. We brought an awful lot of stuff with us. It's going to be fun taking it back after the contest on the water taxi back to the mainland. We brought a few flags with us, but we ended up just choosing two. The Portuguese national flag and the iota flag. It had been suggested we also flew a UK flag, but apparently this doesn't go down well with the locals. Shortly after the previous scene, Colin shouted out, "Peter, the tide's coming in." I wonder what he meant. Well, soon found out.
Well, I would, because it only happens twice a day.
The tide comes in twice a day?
It does.
It's coming in nicely here.
Sometimes. Are you in need of distress?
No, I want to take a photo with my friend.
You want to take a photo with your friend? You don't need our permission. You can go ahead. You all right, mate? Need a hand? Hang on. Yeah, Peter's taking pictures, but one of the team taking pictures of the girls. Hang on, girls. Hang on a minute, Andy. The team's a bit busy.
Well, that was certainly enough excitement for one day, wasn't it? Now we'll better get down to the job we really came to do, and that's erect the antennas today. Here we can see the layout of the site. The building with the SSB and CW stations located very near to each other, only separated by about 10 feet. Each station had its own antennas, a fan dipole and a vertical. An extra vertical was installed to operate outside the contest on the walk bands if people wanted to have a go at that. The fan dipoles covered 80 metres to 10. The verticals were erected right next to the water's edge, where they would work very well. Moving them too far inland, we would really lose the gain that we get by having the saltwater ground plane. Indeed, we had most of our radials in the seawater. Up goes the fan dipoles for B station.
metres, this is what, 36 feet? Flexible.
Before the actual antennas were fixed to the spider poles, we put a couple of flags on the top sections. The spider poles were anchored a couple of sections down from the top of these 42-foot verticals because they are quite springy and whippy at the top. SSB station fan dipole and its balun were fastened to the spider pole and the whole thing erected, and then the pole was guyed. By the end of the afternoon, we erected all the antennas, checked them out with our antenna analyzer, and found to our delight that all the antennas had low SWRs and therefore needed no ATUs during the contest. We now had to go back to the mainland, where in Colin's house we were going to collect all the transmitting equipment and bring it back to the island the following morning, which would be Saturday morning, the day of the contest. Right, it's Saturday morning, we're just getting the cars loaded, ready to get off to the island for the weekend. And we'll be back here Sunday night, hopefully all intact. All these have got to go on the water taxi, and there's a lot of them. There's even more on the way back. Isn't everyone looking smart in their iota cr5cw t-shirts? Two linear amplifiers, expert on the left, and wrapped up in the carrier bag is a FL2000 Yaesu linear.
Just lift that on as it is, don't take anything off it, just lift the whole lot down.
Lift the whole lot down?
Yeah. You reckon,
I
Rob?
reckon it comes off here, we can get it all on that, do a couple of ferries on it. They seem to be a lot moving, but a lot better.
Yeah, but that's got all the other stuff.
No, we can do a couple of ferries for the dock.
Yeah, but we're up against the clock now.
No, it'll be alright.
We'll be fine, Charlotte.
Peter, you don't know, we're up against the clock, buddy.
Anybody else remember us? Them two founded it.
When they're all due into come next year.
Yeah. And we're going, how much money you have? You have both? Only more than we got a day on it, didn't we? We didn't have enough shit, I remember. Well, maybe we didn't get one the second year. No, we got an invite. There's a radio club somewhere. To come and do a talk on it. Just show the film. We have to wear our t-shirts. Of course. Yeah. We could have merchandise on our website.
After a high-speed journey across the water, we were once again at the landing jetty by mid-morning and started the long trek, carrying all our transmitting equipment up to the radio shack. All the antennas which we'd set up the previous day, that's Friday, were still there intact, and all we now needed to do was to put the transmitting equipment into the operating room and get the computer system working, and we were ready to go. cr5cw station consisted of two separate lines of equipment. Station 1 being an FT2000 transceiver driving an expert linear amplifier to just over 1 kilowatt. Station 2, which was used mainly for CW, was an IC7300 driving an old Yaesu FL2000B to approximately 400 watts output on all bands. Laptops were used at each station to do the logging. The laptops were connected to a common router so that the logs were shared between the two stations. Station 2 serial number started with 002 and incremented to 4, 6, 8 and so on, where station 1 started at 001. The logs from both stations were interleaved in a common log. We did have a problem with the FT2000. A few days before the contest started, it developed a problem with the receive front end. The transceiver has 2 stages of preamplification, and it appeared that both transistors in those preamplifiers had blown, probably due to static. However, a decision was made to go ahead and use it as it stood because it was quite sensitive on 40 and 80 and passable on 20, though a little deaf on 15 and 10. We could have repaired it before the contest, but that would have been the night before and we could have run into problems, so we left it as it was. The Expert Linear goes very well with the FT2000. It's fully automatic, so antennas are chosen automatically. Any SWR problems are dealt with by its internal ATU, though we didn't have any such problems, and it gave a very substantial output in excess of a kilowatt. The ICOM 7300 belongs to Andy M0GAV, who brought the transceiver in his carry-on baggage a few days before the contest. It worked very well indeed. It was used almost entirely on CW, where the filters and the noise blanker really proved their worth. There are reports that the 7300 does not like a multi-station environment, but we didn't have any problems apart from a little bit of breakthrough when station 1, using the Expert Linear, was on 80 meters. The ICOM 7300 drove this old FL2000B amplifier. It produced somewhere between 300 and 400 watts. We didn't have a power meter to establish that, merely tuned it up by the old dip and load technique for maximum output as on the meter on the front panel. We had problems on 80 meters, however, and it just would not tune properly. So we used the IC7300 barefoot running 100 watts and did very well. Modern transceivers such as the IC7300 do not like having to key old amplifiers like the FL2000B due to the high voltage present on the PTT connector on the amplifier. So a special interface was made which provided an extra relay to do the job. This prevented any damage to the IC7300 keying transistor. To reduce interference between station A and station B, we placed Dunestar bandpass filters between the transceivers and the linear amplifiers. These had to be changed, of course, every time we changed bands, but they reduced, in some cases completely eliminated, interference between the two stations. All the contest logging was done using WinTest, which is an excellent piece of software, and all of us were accustomed to using it. It provided a lot of information on screen as well as the logging box. When the contest is over, the software automatically produces the required Cabrillo log, which is then sent up to the contest organisers for adjudication, and this is what it looks like. The fan dipole used by the SSB station was a commercially made one, but the one used with the IC7300 on the CW station was a homemade one by cr5cw, and he used these excellent spreaders available from SOTA beams to keep the dipole antennas apart from each other. These spreaders, which cost around 90p each from SOTA beams, can be bought in various sizes. This one is the 110mm spacer. You can put wires down the middle as well as at each end. And of course it really facilitates making open wire feeders shown here in this picture.
Still not getting
Few problems on the SSB
Band
station.
data it's not getting.
Band data. Oh.
Not getting the band data.
Yeah, shall we check
Still
the
no
cable?
band data.
Shall we check the cable? Icon. It doesn't have the CP2102 UART driver in. It needs the ICOM 7300.
Well, Andy's laptop does. A note of all the dip and load settings for this PA was taken and a table produced so that we could change bands quickly.
CQ contest, Charlie Romeo 5, Charlie Whiskey, Charlie Romeo 5, Charlie Whiskey contest.
So here we have Peter G3PHO operating the CW station. It's a little bit slow at the moment. I'm sure the band conditions will pick up later on. But it's searching and pouncing at the moment on 15 metres.
Band conditions which were not very good, and by 5 o'clock we moved the number 1 station down to 40 metres.
Charlie Romeo 5, Charlie Whiskey, CQ contest, Charlie Romeo 5, Charlie Whiskey contest.
And then that's it. Oh, hang on. That's it.
Well, it's time to get the 6 metre beam put together now.
Yeah, that would be really good.
It would be good. A little problem trying to find the correct length of material. Oh, there we are. That's the one that goes in there. Excellent.
So,
Roughly 27. Yeah, that'll extend to 27 now.
that's 23. And an 8. Try that.
Our shack for the weekend is
You alright there, mate?
a local
How's your foot?
boat shed,
Okay.
and it's absolutely packed with stuff, including a boat with an outboard motor on it, and we've just got enough room to put up our 2 stations. Luckily it has all modern convenience. There's even a toilet and a shower here, and at the back there, sort of kitchen area, which we could use if we wanted. It's also used by the locals, so we've not got sole use of it. People keep coming in from time to time. Here's Charlie, who's doing a speck of Charlie's doing a little bit of CW, searching and pouncing on 20 metres. So far, even though the conditions are poor, the aerials have worked quite well. We've had contacts on 20 metres into Canada, the States, Brazil, Israel, on both bands, on both antennas, both this fan dipole system here and the one at the other side of the building, which is used for the CW station. And right next to the shack is the maritime police building. They seem quite okay with us being here. You can see our antennas, the spider pole there holding up 80 to 10 metre dipole system, a fan dipole system, and over here a vertical, and right by us here a button-up vertical HF5 I think it is, vertical antenna. This has got radials going down into the sea, some of them. I think we've got about 2, 4, 6 radials on it at the moment. So we've got a very nice ground plane here, and hopefully later on in the evening this should earn its keep working the longer distance stuff. This is a very popular area for the locals. They come out here on the ferry across from the mainland and spend the whole day here. Around about 5 o'clock the terminal, which is over here in the distance, gets very cluttered and very crowded with masses of people going back to the mainland and back home after spending a whole day here on the island. You also see tourists from other countries here, but the bulk of the people we've seen so far are local Portuguese who use this as a local recreation area. There are no cars allowed on this island, so everything is carried or pulled along in little trolleys. And we had to bring our equipment up from that terminal there and carry it all the way, probably about 1/3 of a mile to where we have installed the stations. Well, it's almost 10 o'clock on Saturday night. They're hard at it inside the shack working stations, and we've just been out, 3 of us have just been out for a meal and come back to see this incredible view of the mainland from the island of Culatra, with the lights of Faro across there, just a few 100 meters across the water. And up there is Venus, which is very bright tonight.
Okay, QSL, Charlie Radio 5, Charlie Whiskey contest. Charlie Radio 5, Charlie Whiskey contest. Charlie Romeo 5, Charlie Whiskey contest. CQ contest, Charlie Radio 5, Charlie Whiskey. Charlie Radio 5, Charlie Whiskey contest. CQ contest, Charlie Romeo 5, Charlie Whiskey.
What's this bloke doing? He's horizontally polarised. As we head into the night, we're still plodding on there, trying to get those multipliers.
The new one, 73 is good evening, Charlie Radio 5, Charlie Whiskey. Again. Echo Sierra 3 Victoria 59845, Echo Uniform 145. Echo Sierra 3 Victoria, you're 59845, Echo Uniform 145. Roger, QSL 691, Echo Uniform 34. 73's good luck, QRZ.
CQ contest, CQ contest. Charlie Romeo 5, Charlie Whiskey. Charlie Romeo 5, Charlie Whiskey. CQ contest, CQ contest, CQ. Charlie Romeo 5, Charlie Whiskey contest. Well, it's almost time to pack up, about 15 minutes left. Andy M0GAV is doing the final QSOs on the 10 metre band, and round here on the SSB station Rob is on 21 megs SSB, just a few minutes to go. We've got a good score, over 3 million points, and I'm not quite sure how many QSOs we've got, but it's quite a lot.
Over 3 million.
3 million points.
3 million to 2,000.
And
Charlie Radio 5, Charlie Whiskey.
The graph of the hourly scoring rate there shows
Charlie
a big
Radio
peak
5,
last
Charlie
night,
Whiskey.
and a fairly average one during the rest of today, with some dips as the bands fluctuated.
Okay,
And
Charlie Radio 5, Charlie Whiskey, 591168, 591168, Europe 145, okay?
well, we haven't got as many contacts as last year, but we've certainly got a lot more points. Almost 3.3 million. That's 1,372 contacts in 253 different islands on the air. That's not a bad effort. We've all had a fantastic time, and we all want to do it again. Now we've got to get off the island and back to the mainland. Well, we're on the way back with an eventful return. The sea's a bit choppy and the floor of the boat is covered in water. Our feet are wet through, but we'll soon be back on dry land.
Rob, can you rescue that blanket before it gets soaked?
No, I wouldn't bother that. I'll just go and get something rescue.
It's one of the dogs. They'll not thank us for it getting soaked through.
It's a sea dog, isn't it?